positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Light the menorah, light the menorah, light the menorah. Bum-a-dum-bum. Santa Claus.
Okay, I got some of that. Holiday episode. Hello.
Dracula, but he's wearing a Santa hat.
The Nightmare Before Christmas. How about that? Does that work?
That's good.
Who gives a shit?
That could be a spooky movie.
We don't have to force it.
This is a trap behind the paywall where we're our most natural selves.
So we let our hair down.
I'm unbuttoning my pants and recording a podcast.
I put on more clothes.
That's how Andrews relaxes.
Yeah. Make yourself comfortable. Put on a parka.
Undressed to your comfort level, Andrews puts on clothes.
There you
When he's at the masseuse getting a rub and tug.
As the patrons know, I have done.
Anyway, this is the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Welcome, the Christmas Damned. Welcome to Pod Damn America. I am Jake Flores. This is the festive socialist goth podcast known as Pod Damn America. Anders Lee is here.
Yes, he is.
And Alex Patak.
I am Tim Allen in the Santa Claus.
And this week we did some work, so you don't have to. We watched a really bad movie. Is this your idea, Alex?
It was my idea. I chanced upon this gem on the Netflix menu in their app, mostly drawn to the fact that it is a Christmas movie starring Kurt Russell, one of my favorite actors. And so I got really high and started watching it, but then around an hour into it, I realized there was still another hour left, and that it's been balls to the wall crazy the entire way through. And so I started putting pictures on the internet and thought we should do an episode on it. Also, weirdly kind of MAGA-y.
Yeah. A lot going on here. This movie, we'll get right into it. We're going to talk about this Christmas movie called the Christmas Chronicles, which
of Riddick.
I think was the full. It's weird. It does have like a sci-fi name. It sounds like one of those like JRPGs, like the Crystal Chronicles is like a Final Fantasy game or something. But it's weird. The reason I say it sounds like a fucking weird made up like sci-fi, like why would they name it this thing, is because it's one movie. So how is it a chronicle? That's like what you name a series or something.
Santa has more powers in it.
It's like when they ran out of names for the Arkham Batman games, where they're just like Origins, Annihilation, Santa Claus, Annihilation Origins.
Santa Claus, Annihilation.
Yeah.
But this movie, I definitely understand getting high and watching this movie. This is definitely the type of thing you would turn your brain off to. And I watched it stone cold sober, so for a good like
a journalist
20 minutes or so, I was like, "What the fuck are we watching?"
It's not very Christmassy for like the first 30 minutes.
But it took a turn eventually, and it got real dumb, and so I eventually was like, "Oh, I can see how this relates to shit that we would talk about," or at least it's like weird enough to pick apart. Because the first act of this film, it almost is like the first episode of like Punisher, or like one of those like action movies where like the guy's family is dead. Like it's all the first scene is just a cut of every Christmas via a camcorder that this family has. So it's like it looks like it's gonna be the guy goes on a fucking machine gun rampage.
Yeah.
And he's tired time. He's thinking
like
back
Santa's
to his wife with the camcorder with the kids. Who's like,
Look
I'll never leave you. You know?
Look at my white family that will live forever.
Yeah. But it's already one thing that doesn't make sense is like we are shown 10 Christmases in a row via this camcorder. It's like 2008. Oh my God, the kids are all young, and this kid got a fucking Nintendo or some shit. And then 2009, they're a little bit older. You see them grow up through this cut of these videos. But then in like 2018, there's still some kid with a fucking camcorder with a tape in it, which is going to be like an integral part of the plot. Is that this family keeps a camcorder with the fucking tape?
We're a Betamax family. We do things a bit old-fashioned here. Not that old-fashioned. Like medium old. Retro.
Like whenever they wrote the first draft of this script, old-fashioned.
I have a question about one of the main plot points here, which is because I was so high that this just eluded my mind net, a term we all use. Is the dad a soldier? There's a picture of him covered
firefighter.
He's a firefighter?
Yeah.
He's covered in badges at one point.
Firefighter.
Because they don't talk about how he dies.
Yeah, they say he went into a fire
to
save another family. And the kid is mad.
Well, I had a fire going in my joint, friend.
No, the kid is mad that his father for sacrificing himself for the community of Lowell instead of his own family.
You sacrifice yourself for the town of Lowell in front of all of Suffolk County.
Oh yeah, they are massholes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Dude, the thing about Lowell is it is the most Massachusetts place in Massachusetts. It's just Mark Wahlberg blinding Vietnamese people block to block. And they have a fantastic high school wrestling team. You heard it here first.
The fuck you say to me, Santa Claus?
You want to fucking go? Yeah, so the family's fallen apart since the death of the dad.
Yeah. But casual Christmas movie for kids just opens up with this dad's dead.
He died in a fire.
Yeah.
God bless him.
I missed that he was a firefighter, but that makes sense.
I thought he was a soldier because I just assumed based on the context clues.
Well, it seemed like the Punisher. The Punisher was a soldier. This seemed like a similar origin story.
He comes back and he's like fucking polishing the barrel of a gun, and he's just aiming it at like pictures of Santa Claus. Kill Santa Claus. Yeah. So, fucking whatever. The current day, the dad's dead, single mom, and there's these two kids. One of them's an older boy who's like a skateboarder, like troubled teen guy.
He's a wayward son. He does a lot of cute, rebellious teen things like smoking and stealing or whatever, but he also lifts cars for the mob.
Full on.
Which seems like a bit more aggressive than the other
Yeah, he just steals a car.
Is that a Massachusetts thing?
Yeah, we love that in Massachusetts.
Okay.
We love stealing cars.
His little sister, who's like a fucking like a more straight-laced kid who's believes in Santa Claus and shit, has the camcorder, and she records him fucking stealing a car. And then it's really just treated with a lot of levity, like, the suburbs, your kids.
Hey, you remember stealing cars?
Yeah.
You get out of 9th grade and you go nick a Viper just to feel a rush.
You would think Santa would come down a little harder on him for that, because he sees all the shit.
Santa comes down so hard on everyone.
That's
what stuck with me.
He's so inconsistent, though.
Yeah,
because
at first he's not mad at all.
later in the movie, Santa steals a car, and he's so mad at other people for this basic shit. But then he's like completely fine with Grand Theft Auto, consistently at least throughout the movie.
Let's not jump ahead because we're going to spend so much time on Santa, but that's what you need to know about these kids is the girl is sad and the boy steals cars.
Yeah. Okay, so speeding up to get to where Santa is, she's got this fucking camcorder. She's this precocious kid. She's watching old Christmas tapes, taking vlogs of herself, and then she sees this on an old tape from Christmas. Her parents about to bone down after cleaning up fucking Christmas Eve. They walk off frame. She sees this gloved hand in the corner of the frame. She stops it in the corner of the frame, very like The Ring style or whatever. And oh my God, there's this. Is that fucking Santa Claus's hand, right?
It looks like Slender Man's hand.
It looks so creepy.
Blurry and long.
And so then she goes, oh my God, that was fucking Santa Claus. I can prove he's real. I'm going to do flat earth shit and set up a camcorder in the corner of the room and fucking, prove to the internet that Santa Claus is real by waiting up all night for him, which I guess in this world no one's ever done before.
No one's done it.
Because it works. She convinces the sullen teen kid to hang out with her as they stay up all night with a camcorder, set up in front of the chimney, and then fucking this, red blur shows up, and they chase it outside, and oh my god, it's fucking Santa Claus, and lo and behold, his sled is like just slowly strafing through the streets, unpiloted, and Santa Claus is like jumping around from roof to roof using like weird bullet time, quick like Nightcrawler teleportation and shit. And sort of explains like, oh, that's how he does it so fast.
He's so acrobatic.
He's got like these like crazy Super Saiyan powers and shit. And so then they jump. They climb up a telephone pole and jump into his sled, and they're like, "Oh my god, you're really gonna fucking do this?" They chase each other into his sled, and then he jumps back in his sled and sort of like turns around or no, he just floors it in his fucking weird steampunk sled to get to the next town, and as he's flooring it, his like bag of toys falls out of the fucking sled, and the little girl falls out first, and then she was like gonna die.
This was the funniest part of the entire movie to me, and it might have just been because of how high I was, but this girl falls from like 2,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, she just turns into that guy that jumped out of the 9/11 building in the middle of this fucking like children's movie, and she's like screaming. She's not a bad actor because she's like legitimately like, "Whoa, I'm gonna die."
And Santa,
yeah, she was good. She's very charming.
Santa's driving style with the sleigh is he just screams at the reindeer, and they do like whip turns. So he sees his girl fall down, and it's just like, and then dives at 2,000 miles an hour.
One of my disappointments with them is they didn't go into how this magic works, because it seems that the reindeer should be kind of superfluous, because you already have the technology to have this sled that can zip around and stuff. So like, why do you need the animals?
Maybe the reindeer are like magic canisters. They contain the magic.
That's what I guess you would, but you would need some
They're
sort of
like living vessels in the way that maybe a mad scientist would use a zombie cadaver.
Fair.
Oh yeah, like immortal, reanimated, like undead. Like they're actually like, kill me.
Yeah, they want to die more than anything.
Okay. Was there a Rudolph in this?
There was
no Rudolph, and there is Rudolph.
Allow me to be clear.
Patrick, I was watching it with a friend of the show, Patrick Marlborough. He pointed out to me, Rudolph is only in shit that has Rudolph's name on it. Unless it's because Santa, the elves, the rest of the reindeer, Miss Claus, they are public domain, but Rudolph is a trademark. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So Rudolph's movies they have to be about Rudolph. He has to be it's some family that owns the rights.
So he's like a Mickey Mouse type thing.
Yeah.
Where like even though he's so old, it's still like not public domain.
And Santa, he's dashing around saving these kids. You're learning that this Santa is a little bit different than the one you read about in the history books.
Yeah.
He tells it like it is.
Yeah, he's a drunk asshole. He's like Deadwood Santa. But just real quick, as we're talking about Australia, I learned also something from Patrick, because he posted on Facebook, that there's a fucking an Australian Christmas carol called Six White Boomers. Which is like
sounds like my Christmas.
It's
2018.
Like the setup for a fucking more like the Rolling Stones or whatever. Sounds like Mark Maron's. I don't know. So like I don't fucking know, man.
What is this, Mark Maron's Bang Bus?
But I guess boomers means like it's a certain type of kangaroo. So they have a Christmas carol about a bunch of white kangaroos with red noses that aren't called Rudolph, because that would be copyright infringement. But anyway, yeah, so fucking Santa turns around, hangs a left, fucking
immediately starts talking about the border wall.
He catches the kid, and they, oh my god, and they fucking crash land somewhere. The
Chicago.
Yeah, they crash land in Chicago.
The south side of Chicago.
You're right.
Why did they choose that?
Such a weird
because
aspect of this
Santa,
movie.
and this is the arc that really made me want to put this on this podcast and not my other one. Santa has like this cop justice arc to him this whole movie where he's like going to the most troubled places he can find and telling bad people they're getting coal. He's friends with so many cops.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a lot. Okay, so as I was watching this movie, I was like, how is this really this is funny, but how's it really relevant to like left politics or whatever? But as soon as he starts getting involved with the cops, it becomes very much like Zizek could pick this apart and do something with it. But not to skip ahead, as we were like introduced to Kurt Russell Santa Claus, he's like crash landed, his fucking reindeer have run away, he realizes the fucking bag fell apart somewhere on some other part of Chicago, and he starts talking to the kids, and he's like this like kind of shit-faced drunk Deadwood like weird Kurt Russell-y Nick Nolte Santa Claus. And then that sort of the big premise of the movie starts to unfurl, which is that he's like, he's not your daddy, Santa Claus,
and he loses his hat in the crash land, which contains all his magic Santa power.
Yeah,
or so we think.
Right.
Well, that's what he says. He also says the Dark Ages were caused by him not delivering presents for one night.
Yeah,
all those people were just like tortured and raped and shit.
Right. I didn't know what Dark Ages he was talking about. Like he meant like middle. Like,
I think he means like the year 1200 to 1600 happened because some lord was not given their wooden mule.
Saint Nicholas wasn't even alive till 1300, I think.
That's what you think. That's what you think. But he comes around every year and he tells people about like simple tax plans.
Yeah.
And,
well, it's like after 1600, everything was just peachy keen. Since then, since Santa, like there are no problems in the world.
What struck out to me is that Santa never says anything expressly political, but he's bloated with ideology.
Yeah, this Santa Claus. I can't fuck. That was bad.
That's what you got to leave him instead of milk and cookies. Ideology.
Delicious ideology.
So, I mean, so there's all sorts of shit going on. Like at one point, they go like, "Don't you say ho ho ho?" And he goes like, "It's fake news." And it's like, why is he saying fake news? Is it a hokey nod to how fucked up things are? Or is it like they know that every fucking piece of popular thing, like media, has to also be for like that half of the country, or it's perceived as that half of the country? Are MAGA people going to think that this is like a really cool Santa Claus? This does kind of seem like their idea of like a man,
Right. Well, it seems like they kind of want to toe the middle of the line. Like they don't want to commit to. They don't want him to be a resistant Santa, but
they'll dabble with fascism with Santa.
Yeah, they want people to see, with the real Santa, they want it to be Blue America loves Santa, Red America loves Santa. We all love Santa.
I think that he's kind of like really low key, like an all lives matter Santa. Like I'm not racist. I just think that like, hey, look, I can make everyone get along kind of guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He talks to the older boy and is like, I would wanted to put you on my good list until you started hanging with your gangsta friends. Pull up your pants. He keeps yelling that.
Yeah. So he's got like he's very reminiscent of Kurt Russell in like The Hateful Eight, or even kind of in The Thing, just because they're outside and it's cold. It just kind of reminds you of like he is kind of a classic Kurt Russell weird, rustic type character.
And he's here to clean up the south side of Chicago.
And then just fucking half the story takes place involving the police and crime in the south side of Chicago after fucking everything that's happened in the last few years. I don't know how this could possibly be like the right setting for like a family fun movie.
It's like not that low budget a movie either.
Right.
It's like
I don't understand.
Cast.
Yeah. They start in Massachusetts and they go to Chicago. Like, right. And so much of the movie takes place
from
there.
white enclave to white enclave.
Well, yeah, that's the way it's portrayed anyway. But if they were really in Chicago, like why not go to Guam? Go to England. Go to.
Santa just appreciates the West and everything that they've built.
Yeah, he's a proud Santa.
Well, I mean,
he's a proud Santa.
He is. He doesn't give presents to the majority of the world, who is not Christian, so he is in that way has an ideology of the Christian
He's
faith.
extremely judgmental,
but to
everyone's fucking face.
But it's like an algorithm though. Like he's like, well, you got cold. Like you did this and that. He doesn't like hector people too much about their personal choices. He's just like, this is just the way it is. This is the algorithm said cold.
He
so you
comes
get cold.
across as closed-minded.
But he dances around the Christian aspect of the thing really hard, because he does kind of make it seem like, oh, he does the whole world, but the only parts they actually show you in the movie are like parts you would consider to be Christian.
The Christian parts, which is interesting because Santa. It's weird because he's at this point he's a secular Christian figure. Like there's so many people who are not religious who still practice Santa with their kids. They
role
still
play as Santa,
right,
in the bedroom.
They do that too, but you still don't have, he's not, people of different faiths do not do the Santa thing.
Well, something that happens that confuses that a little bit, I think, in this, leading into how we get into this experience with the cops is that he realizes that he needs to get to like another part of Chicago, and his without his reindeer, he can't drive his sled, right? So he goes to this fucking Irish pub, and the Irish pub has valet parking and like a hostess and shit. He goes up to the hostess, and he's like real creepy. He's like, hey, remember that scarf you fucking wanted for Christmas when you were like 13 or whatever? Just listing off all this shit about her. And
I remember when you were 18.
Yeah.
I'm Santa Claus.
So he's doing shit. He does this continually to people throughout the movie to varying reactions, but he'll just start like fucking cold reading them and just like going like, yeah, I know. He starts listing what they wanted for Christmas when they were a kid and like weird stuff about their personal lives, and like they either are just like, I think she kind of is resistant to it until she kind of breaks and is like, oh my God, how do you know that? And then she like is really charmed by this Santa Claus guy, and he goes, I need your car. I need you to help me drive across the fucking city. And she's like, I can't do that, but I'll give you all my tip money, which you fucking wouldn't.
Santa doesn't
like
need it.
Fucking $35 to some guy who
You're working Christmas Eve.
Santa Claus, street magician. It doesn't make any. Yeah, you're working on Christmas Eve.
You're in a hard spot.
This is my favorite part of the movie because it's the first time the public is introduced to Santa. Because at first I was like, oh, he's going to try to avoid being seen by humans, but as a matter of fact, he's actually very gregarious and like goes up to people and talks to them. He has no qualms about conversing with people, and it's not really explained, but it was kind of this weird ennui where it's like, do people like, this is a universe where Santa is real? Do most people accept that it is a real guy, or do they think it's just like an unexplained mystery? Like, yeah, they have the Santa mythology, but that's not what really happens. We don't really know what happens, but it's not like, because there were people, they do play both, and I guess that's a realistic take because there are people in the restaurant who are like, oh, that's Santa. I got to meet him. Okay. And then other people are like, I don't want to believe that that's Santa.
Not a big deal. It's just Santa.
Right.
We all know about Santa. Santa
Yeah.
comes down the chimney, and he tells you about the extra tendon that some people have that lets them jump a little higher than other people.
Yeah, there's kind of a trope going on here that you see in like a lot of like superhero movies or whatever, where it's like you, the viewer, are aware that the supernatural thing is real, and then like most people in the movie are, hesitant of it, and they look silly to you or whatever. But it's pretty funny. I mean, he walks around this fucking pub, and there's like, it's like a restaurant or something. There's like families eating. But the thing I was gonna get to is that he goes up to all these like different like multicultural families, and he just looks at these Japanese tables. He starts speaking Japanese at them. Oh my God, Santa goes around the world. He knows all these different languages. And they go, no, Santa Claus, you can't have our car. And then he starts speaking like I don't know which language to like a Middle Eastern family, and then there's this fucking like punchline, like a Hari Konda Balu-esque sort of joke, where the guy goes, hey, dipshit, I speak English,
Right.
Check your privilege, Santa.
The problem with Santa.
But
he wants to borrow my car.
But that implies that because he knows like all these different languages, that there is, well, I guess there's probably Christianity in every country. Like it really doesn't. It dances around the fucking question of like, does he go to non-Christian places.
Right.
I mean, how the fuck does this work? You know?
Shallow world building is what it is. But that's not what they're here for. They're here for speaking out for the white race.
So speaking of the white race, I just watched Green Room, and one of the Nazis from Green Room is in this fucking scene. It's really weird.
Wait, which one?
It's for like half a second. It's the guy, the Paul Giamatti looking motherfucker. I couldn't even find it on IMDb.
He's playing an elf.
I might have got this wrong, but it looked exactly like the fucking guy. But eventually, he acquires a car by figuring out that there's this bartender who's a criminal who, and this is where like the weird crime aspect of it comes in. He's a criminal who owns a hot car, hot as in it's stolen, and Santa's got this weird psychic ability, so he knows that the guy's car is stolen. So he's like, I'm gonna like trick this guy. He kind of beats the shit out of him in a weird like way. Like he's like, I'm gonna trick him to chasing me and then knock over a fucking glass of ice with my like force powers. The guy slips on the glass of ice and he like crashes into something and falls on his ass or something.
Right.
And then
Santa is not afraid to use violence to get what he needs.
It immediately blows up like the question of like what is Santa's morality? Because then he's like, okay, let's steal his car. It's
he has
stolen.
the boy do it.
It's stolen, and I know you, little boy, like to steal cars, so let's steal this car. And he's like, the little kid's like, well, are we really going to steal a car? And he goes, well, yeah, we're just going to give it back at the end of the night, which I'm now just realizing they don't ever give the car back.
No.
they
But
don't.
according to Santa's logic, you can't steal something that's already been stolen, which just shows how deeply invested Santa is in like property law.
And it makes me wonder where he gets all these presents from. Maybe they're just things he's just stealing from thieves.
Well, they come from the bag. It shows they come from the bag. Santa is either at this part or slightly before he talks so much about not breaking federal law and about like how Santa, the last thing he'd want would be to spend a hard night in jail. And it's like, why is Santa talking about jail? He's from outer space.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense that he has so much invested in like terrestrial things, given that he's this like kind of weird godlike Dr. Manhattan alien thing. But I guess, I mean,
he's like full capitalist Santa.
Yeah.
He swallowed all the pills.
So I mean, the idea of Santa is kind of inherently non-capitalist because you have, he's giving it away for free.
He's the spirit of the buying and selling holiday.
True. Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
in terms
saying,
of the iconography, yeah.
Well,
Christmas
is like actually capitalist, but the myth is that it's socialist. You tell kids these
right.
presents are happening for free, just cause, right?
So Patrick actually had a really good point, which was that earlier Christmas movies, like It's a Wonderful Life, movies like that, The Grinch, the heart there, the message was not about gifts. It was not about materialism. It was about love and community and those things. And like, we don't need the presents.
This is the opposite.
Yeah, and since then, after that, we've gotten Jingle All the Way. We've gotten the Santa. It's all about the gifts. It's all about selling the toy.
Any movie Tim Allen has been in is either explicitly or subconsciously about Santa.
Yes,
I've done this. Read my PhD piece on this. I worked on it for 6 years.
Santa is kind of like Amazon or something in this movie, where he's like, all these packages must be delivered. That's the fucking point. If they don't, all of society will fall apart. It'll be the fucking Dark Ages.
How long do you think it is before Bezos makes a Santa movie about himself? And it's not
Santa
even him
doesn't
trying
need
to be.
hair. That's always just been a presumption we have. He's actually, if he was smooth, he'd be faster.
Yeah.
If he was a smooth Santa.
There's a whole series of Doonesbury cartoons about it. Remember that? He was on fucking Letterman.
Yeah.
So he's got this fucking hot car now, and he's driving, and he starts to get tailed by the cops. Like Grand Theft Auto shit starts happening. You quickly notice Santa Claus is not wearing a seatbelt. The kid is. So he's just this fucking maniac. And he starts like doing action movie shit, like jumping over piles of snow and other cars and shit to get away from the police.
Which is like, he respects the police so much and then immediately takes them on this neck break chase down Chicago.
Right. He's like, I'm going to get away from them. But then, so something happens that I think we're not going to get away from this without talking about, which is that eventually the car kind of crashes, and these two cops immediately draw their guns on Santa Claus. And the two cops are black. And I think that's the only way this movie could possibly, like, it would be, if they were two white cops with guns drawn, it would be too evocative of, like, everything that's happened with police in the last couple of years.
In a way, Santa's a black teen. So
there's this weird, like, neoliberal cultural identity sort of aspect to it, because, this is kind of an age-old trope in, like, action movies and stuff, but, like, the gangs that we get to later are all white.
There's so much talk of gangs and gang activity for the Santa.
And they're not, like, they're not gangs generally are kind of racially or ethnically affiliated or involved in some sort of crime family or something, but the gangs that we're going to see later in the movie are just like background characters from like a video game, like Double Dragon or something.
The Rainbow Coalition of gang members.
They look like undercover cops.
Yeah,
they look like dudes who hang out at like Myrtle Broadway, like waiting to see somebody like take a hit of weed. Like, that's what
they've got, like rub-on neck tattoos, and they just kind of talk like this, they're really bad affectations of, but that's the only way they could do it, because if it was the other way around and the cops were white and the gang was just like the Crips or something, this movie would be just fucking torn to shreds.
Unless it was like a black production, you had like the family was black,
Santa's black.
Yeah. Santa's black, everybody's black. It's like the made by black people. Like, that'd be a cool movie.
If that would be fucking cool as hell.
It would not match up with anything else that happens in this movie, which seems like a movie made for chuds.
Yeah, if it was, I mean, like, if Santa Claus wasn't white, everyone would be like defending themselves against him as he breaks into their fucking homes and shit.
Right.
There'd be all these open carry people. Like, the narrative only fucking works because he's like a kind of a weird Western white, worshipped figure. It's like all the underpinnings of this would come apart if you changed any of this shit and it was challenged from like any angle. So there's these two black cops and their guns are drawn on them like they're gonna fucking straight up shoot Santa Claus in the back 9 times. Like, it's crazy that they just threw that in there.
And it's just so much white privilege from Santa too, that he gets out of his vehicle and he keeps his hands wherever he wants to, and he's pulling things out of his pockets.
Yeah, he's he's just kind of like he's like your friend that smokes weed in public, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, oh, it's cool, I'm white, He eventually gets arrested. No, he gets away from them first. This is where like the middle of the movie starts to get kind of blurry.
This is where the divorce stuff comes in.
Right. How do they start talking about the divorce? He
tries to, like, because he's doing the thing he did to the girl at the bar.
He's
where
being interrogated,
like, Mikey, you always wanted a Hot Wheels. Don't you miss your ex-wife?
Yeah, and he pulls out, he has this...
She hasn't forgotten about you and she's sorry.
Oh, right.
Which is that overlap. That's when it really started hitting me in the head. Like, this is a movie for a very specific type of person. It's a movie for like a white boomer with young children who's just like, I just want to hear something about, good American values and Santa Claus and how Diane is wrong.
Yeah. So he does, eventually gets taken to fucking jail. Like, it's one of those, like, Chicago has like those black sites. They came out a couple years ago. Like,
this jail is not on the map.
Ostensibly take him to like some weird Chicago black site jail on Christmas Eve, mind you, and he's being interrogated all the while, like, fucking, they don't even take his, like, clothes away from him or his shoes or anything. Like, they kind of take his coat at one point, but he just keeps pulling shit out of it with his, like, weird magic. And while he's in jail, he does start playing weird, like, mind games with the warden, like you talked about. He kind of reminds me of that character on Lost, the guy that would crash the hot air balloon that would like get inside your head.
Oh yeah.
He's doing weird like Hannibal Lecter shit with the divorced cop and talking about his wife and stuff.
And no one likes it either. None of them trust him more. They're just like, what the fuck? How do you know that?
Yeah. All the while other people are entering the jail, and so there's like something weird happens where clearly what is supposed to be 3 sex workers are arrested for walking the streets on Christmas Eve or whatever.
Trying to stay warm on Yuletide fluids.
They're put into the cell next to him.
Yuletide fluids. What her name?
And then he goes around the fucking cell and he starts like mind reading these other weird criminal people. These like kind
one of them is Lil Steven from the E
right.
Street Band.
Yeah.
Or Pussy from The Sopranos.
Silvio,
I'm sorry.
So he goes up to one of these guys and he goes, "Hey, when you were a kid, what would you get for Christmas on your like 15th birthday or whatever? Fucking Fender Stratocaster, some kind of guitar." And the guy's like, "Yeah." And then he like makes it appear. He's like, "Check this out," and he gives him a guitar. The other guy, he does the same thing to him, and he goes, "This is the guitar you wanted when you were a kid, right?" And then he turns to some black guy and he goes, "Check this out," and he throws a trumpet at him. And the guy goes, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And he goes, "Try it." Like, and the guy tries it and he fucking plays it. He goes, "Oh my God, I know how to play the trumpet." But what's weird is within that bit,
he's Russian.
He defies the fucking he defies the premise of his own bit, because he starts off by going like, "I'm going to give you the childhood instrument that I know through my psychic powers that you will love and you're into." And then he turns to the black guy and he just throws him a trumpet. According to this logic, knowing damn well that the guy is not a fucking trumpet player.
And it's the South Park joke from the fucking Christian rock episode where they just keep giving Token a bass. And they're like, "Token, you know how to play bass." And then Token does begrudgingly, and it's like a racist joke. It's like that, but Santa's doing it. And it's time to fucking jam.
Yeah. So he forms this fucking like
jailhouse band.
This jailhouse band where he's doing like lame shit with sunglasses and singing like, fucking
they do the blues.
Yeah, like white guy blues.
I got the Santa blues 'cause I lost my hat. Everyone's clapping and laughing along.
So then we sort of cut from the middle of his like musical performance to the other kids who have been what happened? The little girl finds the magical like bag of holding thing that all the toys are in, and she jumps inside of it, and so then we discover that there's this fucking crazy little Hogwarts space it's a huge space inside of the bag, right? And she's sort of like running around in there, and as she's running around in there, she like discovers the elves, which are basically like they speak like a weird H.P. Lovecraft made up language. And
they're like Viking elves.
They're like kind of scary.
They're like minions.
They have Nordic
they're very small.
They're also basically ripping off minions.
Yeah.
They are quite damned and hopeless.
But they're not. They're like extra not human. Like elves, usually you think of like maybe the Lord of the Rings elves, a little shorter. Those are Santa's elves, but these are different colors.
These were not people.
No.
These were closer to animals.
Yeah, and they all have like they kind of talk like a racist Star Wars alien, the way they're just like
Santa Claus.
Yeah, and they fucking tie her up with like Christmas lights, and they're about to kill her. At one point, one of them whips out a chainsaw, and they're about to like fucking no, that's the I think later on with the guy.
It's later on that they're gonna chainsaw his dick off.
Yeah, they're gonna chainsaw his dick off.
They raise it over his dick,
like in the Frightener.
I'm just imagining when that scene happened, the version where the boy doesn't pull away at the last second, and it's just elves shooting blood all over this crowd, but they're like, yeah!
Yeah, they're just turning him into like an Ed Gein victim. Just fucking skins everywhere and shit. So
small, too.
As this is happening, the kid, the older brother, hasn't followed her inside the bag because the gang we talked about, the ethnically ambiguous white Street Fighter gang, walks up to him and they're like, "Yo, what's in the bag?" It's like really bad fucking.
There's two things we like here in Chicago, and that's deep dish and Santa's bag.
Yeah. Did I say you could go? Like that sort of weird accent. And so they're roughing him up and shit, and they grab him and they take him and the bag back to their crime boss, who's just some white guy who's, again, not really apparently affiliated with anything.
He's not dressed like a criminal.
He doesn't seem like he's in the mob.
Yeah.
He's just a middle-aged
He looks
guy.
like Avenatti.
He's the gaffer of the film.
So they pull a fucking present out of the bag, or it fell out of the bag, and they're like, we should give this present to our crime boss without looking what's inside. And they open it, and it's coal.
Goddamn coal!
And he's like, you wasting my time. Is this some kind of fucking joke, you motherfucker?
You know, there's nothing I hate more than a lump of coal.
And this makes him furious. He's this furious crime lord, right? So then he gets so mad, and this makes no sense. I guess this is a furnace. He just opens this fucking like vault door, and he's like, give me that bag. I'm going to throw it in the fire room. There's just a room full of fire. But also, it begs the question, why wouldn't you throw the coal in there?
It's just going to get really hot. It's going to be too much. It's full of coal. All of you open presents full of coal. And the boy jumps in at this point and says, you can't throw that in there. My sister's in that bag. And then they do it anyway, which is like, they're a bad gang.
Yeah. What would have happened? Would there been like a black hole opened up or something if they had burned that bag?
There's probably to nerd out a little bit, what essentially this bag is functioning as is what's known in Dungeons and Dragons as a bag of holding, which is like the explanation for why in a video game you can carry like 25 shotguns with you, even though it's in a little pouch. Is that there's a magic property to the bag that can, inside of it's a giant room or whatever, and so there's shit you can do in D&D where, like, if you're fighting a monster and you can't kill it, if you can get on top of it and drop the bag of holding on it, oh my god, now it's trapped inside the thing, right?
With your guns and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know if the D&D nerd might know what happens if you throw a bag of holding into like a pit of fire or something. Maybe the fabric of fucking society falls apart or whatever. Society.
It could be like you're burning time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fuck.
We'll never know because the kid just jumps in the middle of fire and then pulls the fucking thing out, which I guess is maybe, oh my god, it's an allusion to his fucking dad, the firefighter.
He's like saving his dad from the fire.
Yeah. Stepping up, bravery.
He's like
manhood.
The Boston Red Sox, his favorite sporting team.
I never thought about this.
And he grabs a crowbar. He starts threatening the rest of the gang.
That was the one piece of rock and roll action that the movie had.
Yeah, you were really. How are you feeling watching that, Anders?
Cool. Yeah, I was feeling invigorated, cool. But I was hoping for, Santa.
Kick his ass, Santa!
Yeah. More violence.
Slit his throat! You don't follow the law.
You don't get Jeff Bridges in there to not have him, like, beat somebody up or shoot
Kurt
somebody.
Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Fuck.
Wow. Jeff Bridges rarely hurts anyone.
He's the fucking dude from The Big Lebowski, Santa.
Them and that other guy.
Some other guy named Santa.
Yeah.
Okay, so the little girl's running around inside of the fucking bag room at this point, and she discovers all of Santa's, like, this present factory or whatever, his weird, like, spiraling, floating, just magical amassment of it. It looks like at the end of It, when they're in the sewer, kind of. There's just all that weird psychic tunnel shit happening. But at some point, there's somebody brings up, I can't remember who it is in this movie, brings up, like, what happens if you ask Santa Claus for a car? He goes like, I give you a car. My elves make a car.
Right.
Which is like,
the elves love it.
You see cars floating around inside of his magical fucking factory thing inside of his bag, but it, like, begs the question, like, wait, so if you ask Santa Claus for, like, a Dodge Durango, he makes that brand of car? Like, how does that work?
He copies the brand. Well, the model and the layout is already there, and so it's easy for him to replicate. Because he's not an innovator; he's just a master engineer.
But are the manufacturing companies now at odds with Santa Claus? Are they aware that their, like, market is being inflated, or do they get a cut of when he's, like, sort of a third-party subsidiary that makes their shit?
No. I think it's like he's like fudging the numbers a little bit.
Think
like
there's
a numbers guy loses their job every Christmas.
No, the North Pole, I think, operates on sort of a fiat currency situation. So it's like there's a central bank somewhere that just they have an artificial money supply, and so they can buy it from the company. They probably assemble it in the North Pole, but they work out an arrangement where the company still gets paid.
Huh.
I didn't really worry about it too much.
That's what I came up with.
I don't know. I just maybe remember like when I was a kid, like wondering like why does Santa Claus bring like, like a fucking board game made by Milton Bradley. Milton Bradley made the game. Like what?
Like why does he bring you a PlayStation instead of like Santa Box?
You would think it would be fucking Santa
Third
Box.
party.
Yeah. This is how this myth is incapable with capitalism, is what I'm saying.
I didn't get stuck on how the car works its way into the market. I was just like, fuck, Santa is obsessed with fucking cars. He's a grease monkey. He wants to get in hot pursuits with the fuzz, and he wants to lift steaming hot whips straight out the garage. Just to get his kicks and his speed fix. Yeah,
he is kind of a lame car guy. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's part of this that's like for the MAGA chuds. There's like, when you make a movie, I guess you just like, you gotta just like, if you're gonna mass market it, you gotta just pick like 20 fucking different angles to try to get people with. Because like, one of the orc elf things starts floss dancing in the middle of
I saw that.
There, which is like
they're gonna be sued by floss dance.
He's gonna take them down.
Whoa, gonna be Fortnite characters.
I don't know. There's just like so much going on here. So, how does this resolve?
They pop out of the bag with the elves, and the elves beat up the gang before the brother gets murdered.
Right. Oh yeah,
right. Because they're gonna murder him and put him in the compost.
Right, they're just fucking kill him.
Which seems gruesome to put in a Christmas movie, but
so this gang is like, we're saying like these don't exist anymore. If they ever did, like gangs of people who mug people and then report back to a boss. Like I feel like people who like street people who like are gonna rob you, like they don't have a chain of command.
An earlier version of the script where they were just like a local union. They have to report back to the like labor boss guy, and he's crooked.
Yeah,
and they're just like, it's too on the nose.
Ayn Rand.
It's too on the nose. Yeah. The snowflakes will be up in our office tomorrow. You got to make this just a multicultural rainbow gang.
Oh fuck. Okay, I remember what happens. So they stop this elf from like bisecting the young child with a fucking chainsaw from the balls up, and they go, "Oh, he's a good guy, right?"
Gonna fucking that was gnarly.
He was gonna kill him because they were trying to clear out all the criminals, and they didn't know who the kid was. The little girl has to stop him. No, that's not a criminal. It's my brother.
And so they were like, good, we'll chainsaw him in the middle of his dick.
Yeah.
So that it takes like a few hits to really carve it all the way through.
Yeah, the minion elves are kind of scary. Like, they don't speak English. They're just weird pygmies. They kind of
they are stuck with an affliction of the soul that ties them to the Santa Claus.
Yeah, they seem kind of like roped into the whole situation, like in an Oompa Loompa fashion or something.
Yeah. They seem like slaves.
Yeah.
They're slaves, but they're like beasts
indentured,
who are there to be subjugated.
So they eventually all work this out, and then the next thing we know, camera's back in the fucking jailhouse room, and Santa Claus is finishing up his musical number, and mind exploding the guy he's been psychologically torturing, going, look at your phone, oh my god, it's your ex-wife calling or whatever.
Right, the cops, they're watching him, they didn't believe he was Santa, but then after seeing him rock the jailhouse like that, it's Father Christmas. And one of the cops quits on the spot. He's like, "Do you see that? Santa is back in town. I quit." And then he stops being a police officer, and that's praxis, folks.
That I thought was pretty cool. That was like Antifa Santa.
Yeah, he does
Antifa.
He deplatforms.
I like the idea of a cop's like, "Well, I'm going crazy. I'm gonna quit my job." But then he gets busted out anyway by the chainsaw elf, who like saws a fucking hole in the air duct or something.
Right, with the chainsaw, and he gives him his hat, which contains all of his magical Santa powers, allowing him to do Metal Gear Solid at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, so he goes up, he just fucks with the cop one more time by going like, hey, you gonna let me out now? The cop opens the door, thus ostensibly incriminating himself to where he would lose his own job. And once he's opened it, he goes, I didn't need it anyway. And he fucking he Nightcrawler teleports out of the fucking thing.
There's not a judge in this country that will convict you for letting Santa Claus out after a barn slamming song like that. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not some big city lawyer.
Have you ever seen Santa play White Blues?
And so then the last act of this movie is basically that Kurt Russell Santa Claus fucking gets the whole sled back together just in the nick of time. He goes to the little girl. He goes, "You're gonna fucking throw the presents down. I'm gonna fly around and put them in people's homes."
The boy drives the sleigh because he's good with lifted vehicles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he has him. And he almost crashes with the sleigh.
He doesn't tell him how to drive the sleigh,
He's
even
just
though
like,
he
believe
asks.
in yourself.
You gotta kick ass out there.
Yeah, he's like the worst drunk driving friend. He's like the kid's like, tell me how to operate this vehicle. And he's like, you gotta believe in yourself.
Yeah.
It all comes down to reindeer.
Yeah, and then they go through this montage where they like hop the Christian globe essentially, and go to all these different places, and
They go to Mexico City.
Well, they go back to Mexico City at the last minute because they realize, oh, we didn't go to this one apartment because it's the only apartment in all of the planet essentially that doesn't have a chimney because it's a fucking apartment.
Right.
So this.
That's fucked up.
One of the elves got candy cane on the name too.
Yeah, you got candy cane on the name as a clerical error.
Oh, right. I was trying to make it racist. Like,
Right.
well,
you
Mexican
don't have
family
to,
doesn't have a chimney.
You don't have to make it racist because they have the great scene of the girl coming down as Santa is there, like, Santa Claus aquí!
Yeah. Santa, ¿dónde está mi bicicleta? It's so weird. And so
Santa quiero ver la biblioteca. White Spanish Santa.
yeah.
Sí, sí puede.
Me gusta Navidad.
You also don't see her parents too, so you're like, yeah, you're a girl in California. We need you to dance around this apartment and say some library Spanish.
Yeah. It's also like, I mean, is it the same time everywhere they go? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen some explanations of Santa where he freezes time. He freezes time.
This is one of
or
your
has a
email
way of
correspondences with Noam Chomsky.
Just explain how he does it so fast. No.
Well, he works in. He is a gnome.
Oh my God.
Gnomes. Santa has gnomes, and those are the elves.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
Turtles. But he, a lot of times he'll freeze time or he'll slow it down.
He went through wormholes in time to get to Mexico.
That's
and
what
to
the
get
green
to
stuff
Chicago.
was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, it would have to set the clock back slightly every time he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He would also probably have to lose atoms or something from his being at some point, teleporting that
Right.
much.
He is magical, and I bet he handles it fine. But I'm wondering if these children have irreparable damage from riding in the sleigh.
Right. Yeah. They've probably been put through G-forces in a fighter jet.
Right.
He doesn't enforce seatbelts at all.
They're just getting other people's memories now.
Yeah.
They're magically broken.
Right. Their ears would be popped, their brains would explode to be at that altitude.
If
that fast.
Fighter jets have to do this weird shit where they bark and scream and shit in order to keep the blood from rushing out of their heads so they don't pass out and stuff. That's why they have those face masks and shit like that. Keep oxygen on their heads. This kids would just be passing out and getting the bends and shit, air bubbles and stuff. He doesn't give a shit. He's magic. He doesn't care.
There was that one scene that I thought got a little too political at the end where Santa throws a Keurig machine out of the sleigh and it falls on the ground and he goes, "It's trash!"
Yeah, he's nice try, snowflakes.
Yeah, he kept calling everyone snowflakes, and it has this whole double thing because he's Santa.
Wait, did that really happen?
No.
Oh.
He tossed some Panera Bread gift cards on it, too.
Yeah, he fucking goes to a Starbucks, and he's like, "My name's Merry Christmas, bitch."
He uses a lot of hateful gay slurs.
So he's just like he's in the sled and he's just taking like a cell phone video from the dash. Like, all right, all I'm saying is you got to respect the office or whatever. He's like he's subtly
respect the
MAGA.
office of Santa.
Respect the office. You elect a Santa. The Electoral College elects a Santa every year.
So the end of this movie is that he drops the kids back off at home, and then he sort of like gives the fucking kid, the older kid, his hat, and then he goes like, "Wink, I didn't need the hat all along," which is like, why did you fucking go to jail?
It was
did. Yeah. The point
Why did you play that song in jail?
The point was to teach them a lesson, or to give a gift of a sense of meaning without their father. But like, do you do that every year? Would you choose another family? Like, how do you get to everybody who's having an existential crisis like that?
All the other kids with like, dead dads.
Yeah, there's tons.
Give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. Give a man your Santa hat. Why did you sing the song in jail?
He's also like, yeah, like I said, like the car is nowhere to be found that he stole.
No,
Yeah.
that shit's gone. It's Chicago, baby. Windy City. Pra, pra,
Well,
pra.
that guy was a thief, and I think Santa believes that property is theft. At least my interpretation of the
Yeah.
Santa.
That is
Sure.
not in the film, though.
Yeah,
It's heavily
but the
implied.
beard, very Marxist.
He
A work of great contrasts.
So the two endings, I can't remember which one comes first, but Santa goes back to his fucking like his weird apartment in North Pole, and he's just like hanging out, going over his notes, and then like his like hot wife, Miss Claus, sort of like walks in.
Who's a different famous actress?
She looks
Leon.
like Ivanka when she turns around.
Yeah.
Fucking Melania or something. She looks like a Trump wife.
Yeah.
She's like
From the back.
it's in the face, kind of. She looks like a fucking like one of his weird Eastern European supermodel type
She looks
wives.
like, yeah.
He still looks like Steve Bannon. The whole thing's just got this weird twinge to it. I think that they're trying to dog whistle shit.
Yeah.
They're
dog
I think they're
whistling.
just trying to appeal to everybody at the same time.
They blow a whistle that only Santa can hear, and it makes him racist.
Yeah.
Is he an avatar for Trump, you think? Because he's this reckless, sort of wacky...
I don't think like
guy.
intentionally, but I think backwards, like if you work it backwards through like, well, what is it to make a piece of media that has to appeal to those people because we understand them to be a demographic now?
Right.
Like, you see this in all sorts of weird popular fiction now, is that like it's just more normalized to try to imbue those qualities into characters. So he, on some level, if you fucking made a transparency of him and Trump and put them over each other, there's like shit that lines up,
Right.
which is just like a byproduct of like culture and marketing and capitalism and all that shit or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it is weird because those people, they do value things like family and Christmas, and they have all these sort of traditional things, but they're also okay with this just vulgarity and just like...
That's why this is Kurt Russell Santa Claus.
So is Santa.
Right.
Santa's okay with
It's
vulgarity.
the melding of those two, yeah.
You
The
can
sort
spit
of-
in Santa's mouth.
This is like the Santa Claus that bullies the Ted Cruz Santa Claus. He's just like,
yeah.
Oh, man, I want to see Ted Cruz Santa Claus.
I wonder what Ted
That's a way better
Cruz
Santa
asked
Claus.
for Christmas as a little kid.
He just melts down the chimney.
He's a slender man. So then the end of this movie is like back at the family house or whatever. The mom comes home and it's like she got her wish. Her kids are hugging because they just went through this traumatic evening with this strange man. And they all go inside. Doesn't really explain where she's coming home from. She's like, "Why are you guys up?" They go inside. And, oh my God, there's all these fucking presents everywhere and shit. And the older son opens this present that's like from Santa Claus or whatever, and it's this shitty Christmas ornament. And he's like, "What the fuck? Like, why is
I
this
didn't fucking ask for this.
the guy give me this Christmas ornament?" And then he goes And he puts the ornament on the tree, and he looks into it, and his face does Paimon shit from Hereditary. Smiles back at him, even though he's not smiling, and his face turns into his dad's face. This part was fucking weird. I didn't like it. And then he says, "I love you," and the dad face says like "I love you back" or something, or "Merry Christmas" or some shit like that.
Happy Christmas. I trapped your father's soul in this bell. Every time you look at him, you'll see him stuck there, lingering.
Yeah, and then the other kid gets a fucking skateboard, and the mom's happy, and I think that's basically it. I think credits roll.
Ew, it's pretty funny. One of them got a magic item, and the other one got a skateboard. That's some interesting.
It's also funny that the skateboard's probably more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's a magic skateboard.
Yeah.
And the skateboard screams like your father did.
It's got the soul of the fucking people you saved with the fire in it, or I guess him. And you do a kickflip, it's just the wailing of the fucking bed.
Another perfect film.
God, yeah. So I watched that Stone Cold Sober. I feel dumb.
It's great when you're real fucking high.
I was on Kratom.
Anders is doing next level drugs here.
I don't know. Overall thoughts? I mean, what the fuck did we just watch?
Find something around your house, drink it, and then watch this movie.
I think we're due for a good quality classic Christmas movie. There hasn't been one in a while. I don't know if this really takes the cake though, because it doesn't have. It's not that. It doesn't have the original. It doesn't have that charm, the distinct. Like it doesn't have a distinct mark really. I mean, you are kind of trying to make a more jocular Santa, which you could go somewhere with, but I think you gotta lean into it a little more. You gotta have them getting in more mischief.
More mischief?
Yeah.
Did you see how much mischief he got into, though?
He almost got killed in jail.
Well, yeah, but he
did
was
Blues
sing-songy.
car
He was
chases.
confident the whole time.
He's never worried.
Establish who Santa is.
Santa
more.
needs a moment in
What
the
is
dark
why
abyss.
is he doing this?
Oh, yeah.
It didn't go by like, why is he doing this? Who is he? Where did he come from?
According
like,
to my
we didn't get any
Dan
of that.
Harmon's
I was
character
just gonna say
circles.
that. Exactly. He doesn't fit
Santa
the
needs
hero's
to have
journey.
a moment of complete loss that never occurs in the film. I think this was through and through a movie for boomer MAGA chuds, and it was funny that way, and any subtlety they thought they had is a lie.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what my favorite Christmas movie is, guys? Did you know Die Hard Christmas? Do you know how interesting I am?
Wow.
Die Hard is my favorite.
I don't
Christmas
care what people say. I think you're cool, Jake.
Die Hard. You guys know that?
It's like Christmas, but for murder.
The most interesting human in the world. That's Die Hard.
I thought you were going to say Krampus because you're like a goth.
Christmas with a Krampus.
Is there a Krampus movie?
Krampus he's the evil Santa.
I know who he is, but is there a movie?
Yes, it's called Krampus, and he's come from hell.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Tight.
watch that one.
I think I watched that a few years ago.
I watched it last year on Christmas Eve, and I was like, nice.
I also like Jack Frost.
Is that one scary?
Oh, yeah, it's a fucking snowman that kills people.
Really?
Yeah, it's badass.
Mr. Officer, you had all of the clues.
There was a cartoon like an old ass cartoon that was about Santa, and it had like him fighting Molochs and stuff. That was cool.
Frosty the Snowman?
I do kind of
baby.
like anime scary Santa if he could shoot beams out of his eyes and shit and fucking kill people.
I like the Santa that doesn't revert so quickly to violence.
You know,
As I feel like it kind of pokes holes in his whole thing.
I would like to see like full-on Guillermo del Toro Santa, where he's like kind of a fucking scary.
His
space
eyeballs are in his hands.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and he's like summoned to fight Godzilla or some shit.
Well, I love this movie, and I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
7 out of 7 Chronicles.
You know what's funny about that Jack Frost movie is that I think there's 2 movies called Jack Frost. They're both called Jack Frost. One of them's about a snowman that kills people, and one of them's about a drama about a family whose dad dies, and then he comes back as a snowman.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
They used to be right next to each other at fucking Blockbuster, and you could accidentally get the wrong one.
Oh, God.
And then you thought, your fucking weird, shitty kids are like, ah!
Hey, this holiday season, get your kids the right Jack Frost. Warm their hearts and not their lifeless bodies.
All right. Well, yeah, we watched it, so you don't have to, or you can watch it. I don't know. Spoiler alert: if you listen to this whole episode, you probably should watch that movie. I don't know. You know how these podcasts work.
Happy holidays from our upside down cross to yours.
Yeah, upside down Christmas. Oh God!
Nice.
All right, so fuck it. Yeah, that's the bonus episode. Thank you, the damned, and happy solstice or whatever the fuck your thing is.
I celebrate your celebrations.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. People keep getting really mad every time. People are just so fucking.